All right, hi everybody. Thanks for joining us here at Canyon Hobbies. As you can see, I have a big box in front of me, which means we're going to do an unboxing. So I appreciate you joining us. This is a truck that honestly I knew nothing about going into the release. I don't know anything about Funco even. A customer explained to me what Funco was. So we're kind of learning together. But I wanted to unbox it and look at everything that's in the box, kind of compare it with, you know, other parts that Traxxas has for like the X-Maxx and the XRT, and see, you know, what's back and forth. We can swap back and forth kind of thing. I'm kind of excited about the chrome covered A-arms. I think those look cool, and I want to put them on my X-Maxx. But let's get into this box. All I brought with me is a knife, and I know there's some assembly we got to do. So hopefully it comes with the tools in the box to help with that. We'll find out. But let's start by opening the end here. This one happens to be the blue one, which, if any of you know me, that's my favorite color. So I'm happy to open this one and show off the blue one. But it kind of comes out like that. We got some wheels, and in here we got our kit, and then most likely the remote's on one of these. Alright, let's start here. So we got some tires. Look at the tires. They come with paddles. Looks like all we gotta do is put tires on, so that's pretty easy assembly, guys. Now we might have to put the whips on, which didn't fit in the box, but that's okay, we can handle that. Let's get it all the way out. There's the remote. We'll put that aside. We don't know what the Traxxas TQI does, but let's start with the body. On top of here, something I've never seen. They got another kit to assemble. It's got the wheelie bar in it, a tool, and the whips. One thing I didn't realize when I was first ordering this is that the whips actually have the lights in them, so they're ready to go out of the box, which is kind of cool. So if you don't want to get the light kit, you don't have to. The whips will still be lit up, so that's kind of fun. And whips, I didn't even know that term until I learned about the Funco. So a lot of you know the whips from probably four-wheeling and side-by-side stuff. But I don't know. I'm too poor after RCs to play with that stuff. So, but let's see how we get this body off. I know I heard it's similar to the XRT, so I can feel the clips on the back there. I'm going to have a feeling there's clips on the front, but where they're at, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm crazy. Oh, they're just under the corners here. So 4 clips, and the body comes off, just like that. If you look inside the body, it's got the power supply for the whips. And we'll kind of go through that and put those on. Let's look at this part of it. It's kind of exciting. They put a whole motor assembly in the back, all the way down, full size. That's pretty cool. So those of you that don't know Funco, which I didn't know Funco when I before this came out. Funco's a real sandrail that are very expensive to own. Well, to purchase, I don't know how expensive they are to own, but to purchase one, they're very expensive. They're all custom. They have carbon fiber bodies, custom leather interior. So I think when Traxxas was putting this together, they kind of kept that in mind and tried to make it very close to looking like the real Funco. So the body actually has like a carbon fiber look to it. Obviously the arms, they use like a chrome cover on the plastic to make them look like the real thing. And then they put the twin turbo V8 motor that the Funcos come with. So it's pretty cool, keeping it looking like the real thing, which I think is what's going to make it popular. The guys that have the real thing are going to want this to play around with, because some of them don't even drive their real one because it's so pretty. So they can drive this one instead and save a little money. But let's look at these front brakes, because that's a new thing for Traxxas, at least that I've seen. Is they actually have a front brake system on this that's actuated with the servo right in here, and you can see that you have a little bit of a control on. You can adjust how much it works, and so you can adjust that when you're giving the brake, so you're not endoing, which I'm sure won't happen with this big of vehicle, but you'll probably put flat spots on your tires if you're skidding them all the time. So you can adjust that. The rotors are metal, which they feel like they'll survive quite a bit. They got a decent sized pad on them, probably 3 or 4 millimeters thick. So it'll be interesting to see how long those last, how often you're gonna have to change the brake pads. Right out of the box, I can tell it might need just a little bit of adjustment. One's a little tight. The other one's probably in a good spot. But this one's a little tight, so we'll have to, that'll be an adjustment we'll make to make it work properly. It does come with the Traxxas VXL 8, just like the X-Maxx and the XRT. It's got the same motor as well. I have seen one of these in action, and with that just going to 2 wheels is pretty exciting. You'll be surprised at how much power it puts to 2 wheels when you're used to the 4-wheel drive X-Maxx and XRT. So that was another exciting thing to watch. Another thing I noticed is these arms in the back, the uppers and the lowers, are the same as the X-Maxx and XRT. These are actually not the long arm, so you could put the long arm kit and lengthen the back out just a little bit if you wanted a little wider stance in the back. I found that you can do that. Hopefully they'll come out with the chrome in the wide arm kit, or at least wide arms that have chrome. The fronts are new for this vehicle. They're their own, but they look pretty sturdy. So I think as far as the X-Maxx platform goes, this one's going to still hold up pretty nice and be pretty durable. Because we know that's kind of the nice thing about the X-Maxx and the XRT is they're durable vehicles. So hopefully this one holds up to that and is just as durable. Let's put some whips on and see how easy that is to install, and then we'll put the wheels on. I'm kind of excited about the whips. I think it's a cool, I want to kind of put them on every vehicle I have that they'll fit on, because I think they're cool. Just to have a little glow behind your vehicle. I think this is the, no, that's not the quick. Oh look, there's a manual right in here for the whips. So inside the whip bag you'll get a little instruction sheet. New tool for Traxxas that I haven't seen. It's basically an Allen key with rubber handles, so probably doesn't beat you up as much to use it. I've got a bunch of screws and a couple zip ties in here. Looking at this, it shows you install the wheelie bar we got to take the whole rear end off with the motor. So maybe we'll do that in just a minute. So the wheelie bar is going to take a little bit more. It looks like you have to take the whole rear end apart, at least the upper part, to get down to the wheelie bar. But here's our little manual for the whip. It looks like we just need to take the top cover off, which consists of 6 screws or 7 screws. The nice thing is, out of the box they only put 2 screws in, so you only have to take 2 screws out, and then we can put the whips on, and then we'll just have to put 8 screws back in when we put it back together. So at least they were thinking about us there. They didn't put all the screws in. This body is definitely well done, I think. I appreciate the detail, the making it like the real Funco. You get to see a little more detail with the top off. 2 drivers, it's got sticks in there, which is kind of fun. All the decals in there to make it look like a real dash. I think that's pretty fun. Alright, next step, once we get the top off, we get our whips out. Where did I put the whips? I buried them. It looks like the screw hole goes towards the back, and then there's 1 screw hole in the middle. Those are all screws that look like they attach to the body, not necessarily to the truck. So what I've noticed is there's 2 screws on the side. It looks like those screws will come in from the side. This is actually the back part of the cage. So you're installing the back part of the cage when you do the whips. Put the wires in the holes. Drop the whips down, make sure our wires came out. And I'll start by putting these screws in on the sides, which Traxxas says they're the 3x15. And if you don't know how to tell if a screw is 3x15 or what that means, it's actually a millimeter measurement. Let me grab my... So when it says 3 millimeter, that's going to be the size of the screw diameter, which is, you measure just on the top. You can kind of get an idea that it's 3 millimeters just by looking at the screw. Then the length of it is the second number, which these ones are supposed to be 15. With this type of screw, you measure from the bottom of the head to the end of the screw, and you can, I don't know if that's hard to tell, but you can count each millimeter, and it's 15 millimeters. So this is the screw that we'll be using. There's 4 of those. Looks like they're all going to use the same head size as far as the tool goes. I'm glad they gave us a little bit nicer tool than just a little regular Allen key, because this would probably take a while to do. I know we all have tools out there, but I'm glad they're still trying to think about us a little bit and put something in the box that's actually usable. I appreciate that. How cool is that, guys? Have some light up whips. Is that worth the $1,300 right there? For some, maybe. So, just like that. The whips are attached. The rest of our cage is attached. You can put the top back on. And put all of our screws in. It comes with plenty of screws. Alright, so a few more screws here. We'll get this put on. And then, if we got time, maybe we'll take a look at the wheelie bar, get it put on too. I wanted to get it all put together for them, for allowing me to open it and look at it. It's definitely an interesting car for me. I don't know, I don't go to the sand dunes a lot myself. I love to bash. I got an X-Maxx and an XRT, but I couldn't find myself using this. So it may not be a car I pick up. I do like this blue color, it looks really nice. But I can see how it'd be a lot of fun out of the dunes. Even the customer that brought one by, he had the XRT tires on it and was burning rubber in the parking lot, and it literally burnt rubber, which was kind of fun. Sounds cool. And eight, 9, 10, 11, 12 screws, and the top's all put together. The whips are put on. We'll finish the wiring later. It looks like you just kind of follow it to the power supply and zip tie it, make it look nice. This body's got a lot of parts to it. I'm a little nervous about that as far as how powerful it is, and I go through a lot of X-Maxx bodies, and I can imagine this one's probably not the cheapest body to buy. I haven't actually looked that up yet, to be honest, but with all these skins, and maybe the nice thing is you can buy the skins separate, and mostly that's what you'll do damage to. You won't actually damage the frames, and maybe they'll sell, pieces of the frame separately, which will help for people like myself that beat the bodies up a little bit and know you're going to have to replace them down the line. I do like the way they did this wing and this rear end. It seems pretty sturdy. But that's one thing we'll find out as we go, if it's going to hold together. The clips are part of the back with all that stuff on there. So there's only 4 clips holding this whole body on, and 2 of them are all the way back here. So we'll kind of see how that holds together going forward, but I really like the look of it. I think they did a really good job. mean, it's a little heavier body, but I don't know that that's gonna take away from the 8S power and the ability to play with this. So getting to the wheelie bar, it shows we got to take these screws out here. And this will take off the upper cage. And we got to take the motor out too. So there's 6 screws that hold the upper part of this back cage on. And you are going to want a wheelie bar. Just watching the guy that brought one over play with his. I don't think I would drive it without the wheelie bar. You're going to flip it over on its back a lot, damage this motor. It does have a pretty big kind of bumper there in the back, but I can see if you don't have the wheelie bar, you're going to damage your body and damage other things, which so you get those off, and then it looks like to take the motor out, there's 2 screws that go in the sides and 2 in the bottom. So the screw count is going up, but it's kind of fun to wrench on cars. So if you get a wrench on your car right out of the bag, I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm gonna set that there. Okay. So these 2 screws here. I've already warmed this rubber up enough, it's starting to become obnoxious, but it does save your fingers from getting beat up. So thanks for your patience as I take screws out. And then the other 2 are just on the side here. So we'll see how that plays out going into repairs. It does look like it's designed just like the X-Maxx and XRT, where you can take the back off, you take the front off, kind of work on them separately. I don't know how much of this you'll have to take off to get to the rear bulkhead. I don't know that you'll have to take this all apart like this to get to the rear bulkhead. You might be able to repair that without taking this all apart. And honestly, I think if it was me, I would probably take the 4 screws on the skid plate out and these 2 screws that I'm taking out right now, and just take the whole motor and this piece out all at once, so it's out of the way when I work on the bulkhead. But similar looking to the XRT on the bottom. I can imagine the rear bulkhead is different, but it's probably got the same gears. It's got the same cover on it. Flipping it back over. see if we can get this motor out. There's no other screws, so just a matter of being smarter than the motor. And there you go, you got yourself a V8. So that all comes out with 4 screws. I can imagine people will make that look cooler with a little paint or something. Alright, now we're all the way to where we can actually put the wheelie bar in. It looks pretty self-explanatory as far as putting it on. And the 4 screws came with all the other screws that we used for the top. So don't lose them. So it will be interesting just taking this apart and putting this together. There's a lot hanging out in the back here. It'll be interesting to see how that holds together. They did use the cold weather plastic on that skid plate. That'll help. But we'll see how it goes. What parts I'm going to have to bring in for repairs. For the X-Maxx people out there, we know we go through bulkheads, which I can imagine, since we're putting all 8S power to one rear diff, we're going to be going through bearings, especially in the sand. So we'll see how those things hold up as well. The diff, or the center diff cover is a little different looking. It'll be interesting to see what's underneath there. But I have to admit, I really like the look of this car. And maybe it's just because it's blue, I don't know, but it does look nice. It would have been more fun had they figured out a way to put this motor inside there. Of course, that might change the whole balance of the car. So yeah, other than those arms and the bearing carriers, I don't see much that's really interchangeable with XRT or X-Maxx. I'll have to measure these front links. They might be interchangeable. It looks like the center chassis, and I'll have to look it up, but it looks like it's its own design. It's not the XRT. I thought it might be the XRT center chassis, but it might be. It probably is. The front looks a little different to me, so I'll have to look into that. So it doesn't take forever, but it is, as far as Traxxas goes, this is the most time I've spent getting a car out of a box before I'm able to drive it. Which isn't a big deal. Like I said, I enjoy wrenching on my cars, and being able to see how it goes together and play with it before I drive it is actually kind of nice. But for some, this might be obnoxious that you have to put a bunch of stuff together before you put batteries in it and drive it. So I can see a lot of people leaving the bump or the wheelie bar off. I can see a lot of people leaving the whips off for a minute and going playing before they put those on. But it's not horrible, folks. It's just a few screws. We can handle it. I think it's kind of fun that they added these little tanks on the shocks. It might be more fun if they made them functional. Maybe that's something an aftermarket company will do, or maybe that's a hop-up that Traxxas might do. It'd be interesting to see what things people will break and need to upgrade on this vehicle, with it being such a long nose, and then also the rear end sticking out a little further. We'll see what happens with that. Looks like the bell crank's very similar to the XRT, which is one of the first things I replace whenever I get an 8S. That bell crank doesn't hold up. I wished it did, but seems like for me, it's the first thing I break. Even before stripping gears out in the servo or anything, I break the bell crank. But they have aluminum ones, so we can always do that. Alright, before I put wheels on, I'm going to uncover these, because that might be harder to get to when you get the wheels on. Kind of cool, these chrome covered. I have a nitro Jado, not the new electric Jado, but the nitro that came with, or that had as a hop-up the carbon fiber covered plastic, and it was really cool. Unfortunately, they stopped making it, so I can't replace mine anymore. But they actually hold up pretty well as far as like the covering goes. I'm sure some people will be nervous about the chrome coming off, but I never had that problem. I just broke the arm when I ran into another car on accident. Yeah, so the rear arms are the regular X-Maxx arms, which means RPM. They make those arms so you'll be able to use RPM arms. And then if you wanted to give it a wider stance, like I said, you could get the wide arm for the back and just get the longer drive shafts and the wide arm kit. It'd set the stance out a little bit. I don't know how that would change the shock, but I can't imagine much. Put some wheels on. These tires, even the front, are directional. So when you're putting it together, keep an eye on that. It has the rotation arrow. It looks like this little piece here you can change out for different colors, or if you damage that one, you can replace it. The tires are glued on, so it's not like a three-piece wheel, it's just that cover comes off, which can be cool if you want to change up the color and make it your own that way. It did come with a nicer, longer wheel nut tool. I do put Loctite on those axles, so it's a little hard to get on the first time, but make sure you actually tighten it all the way. Don't feel like you've gone too far because it's hard, because that won't be the case. It shows right on here, these are belted, the belted paddles. Obviously they're going to be directional as well. make sure you follow that. Kind of looks like just the X-Maxx belted tire, just a different rim. Looking better and better. Actually working up a little sweat working on this thing, but I like to shout out to Blake. He's my camera guy, so he's been standing here the whole time while I've been putting this together, and appreciate him. And he's got a good eye, and he'll edit out the dumb things I say. And I'm gonna have to measure. I'm curious. Just looking at these, they feel a little bit taller than the regular X-Maxx will, but it might just be me, because I want to say this rear tire is the same, so same as the X-Maxx one. So. Can't imagine they're any different. A lot of people ask if it's like the HPI Baja, the gas-powered sandrail. I could tell you just by looking at this, the HPI is longer and not quite as wide a stance. I think the HPI is a little, at least in the front, seems a little more narrow. So I think it's similar, but definitely not the exact stance of the Baja. And I can tell you, just because I have a Baja, this will be probably 2 or 3 times faster than the Baja out of the box. They really stiffen that back up. Which is different, which for those out there that like to bash in skate parks, you might be able to get these springs for your X-Maxx, and it'll keep you from body slapping so hard. It'll take all your control away, but at least you won't body slap, because it's a lot stiffer. At least, yeah, just feeling that, it feels a lot stiffer than the X-Maxx or XRT. The front feels about the same. Let's see what it looks like with the body on. Kind of just falls into place, which is nice. 4 clicks and you're on. There you go. As far as weight goes, I'll have to weigh it, but it does feel a little heavier as well. Which is probably not a bad thing for being out in the dunes and trying to keep those front wheels down. I know just from watching it, it'll wheelie, and it's got a lot of power. Those back wheels. He was burning rubber, making black marks down the street. So I thought that was pretty cool, honestly. But I appreciate you watching us. I look forward to seeing more of these Funkos out there. I think they did a really good job. Just the little I know, unfortunately I wish I knew more, but about the Funco. I've never actually seen one in person, so just from what I've looked up since this has come out, I think they did a good job. I think those that have a Funco will appreciate it, and I think it'll do really well in the sand. So we'll see you out there on the dunes.